All right, I went back and I watched it this morning. I watched Jake Paul versus Mike Perry, and here are my thoughts. When this fight was the original opponent, is, as you all know, was supposed to be Mike Tyson, and apparently that fight is still going to happen. I think it's going to happen sometime in November, thereabouts. Yeah, listen, I was kind of looking at Jake Paul's career trajectory, given his last two fights where he was actually fighting, although they were not great, and I'd love to know who they got their wins against because, goddamn, he was fighting boxers who were Queensbury boxers, and I say Queensbury, they're fighting Marcus Queensbury rules, not with Frank Warren, obviously. But they were legit boxers. They weren't great, but still, he was fighting kind of guys that you would expect up and comers to fight. So he was on that kind of trajectory. And he deviated massively. And it was announced he was going to fight Mike Tyson, a 60-year-old Mike Tyson who hasn't had a professional fight, although he did have that exhibition with Roy Jones a couple of years ago. Hadn't had a professional fight since Kevin McBride in '06. And he lost that fight to Kevin McBride in '06. Kevin McBride, a run-of-the-mill, probably really a journeyman in the 2000s, which was not a strong era in the heavyweight division, so you can only imagine. And he's meant to fight him. Mike Tyson, I can't remember what the health reasons why he couldn't fight now, but apparently he's going to be able to fight in November. All right, let's see. They put him in there with Mike Perry. Now, I'd never heard of Mike Perry as a boxer. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, is he a legit boxer or who is he? Apparently, no. He's a bare knuckle fighter. He's two split decision wins. Actually, one of them is against Michael Page. Is that Michael Vernon Page, MVP? I think it might actually be. Is that? Yeah, I think it is MVP actually. Remember, he fought in some of those David Hay shows back in the day. But he got a win over him, and yeah, you look at his career, it's just in bare knuckle anyway. Yeah, he's been getting wins, but bare knuckle professional boxing, it's a bit different. It's quite a bit different. His only fight, apart from this fight in Queensbury boxing, Marcus Queensbury rules, was against a guy called Kenneth McNeil. Kenneth McNeil's record is 13 wins and 5 losses, 2 of them by knockout. Lost to Atlanta's Fox, I recognise him. Not really any other names on that record that I recognise, to be honest with you. So not a stellar professional career from Mike Perry in the slightest. Looks to be down at light heavyweight. This fight was up at cruiserweight, and I would love to know what both guys weighed in the morning after the weigh-in. I'd love to know because the size. Sometimes you notice a size difference and you're like, "Whoa, that jumps out at you." This didn't just jump out at you. This was like a bloody chasm of a size difference. It was crazy to see how much bigger Jake Paul was compared to Mike Perry. You were just looking, you were like, holy crap. What the? Who commissioned this fight? Who actually looked at the size and the rehydrations and said, hey, okay in my books? Because some commissions, I think more so the British Boxing Board of Control, if you're cutting an extreme amount of weight, they won't allow that. I'm not too sure about rehydration, to be fair. That all kind of started with Arturo Gatti back in the day, back a long time ago, when he fought Joey Gamache in Atlantic City. If you remember that fight, Gamache only rehydrated like 6 or so pounds. Gatti rehydrated nearly 20, I think it was 19 pounds heavier the next day. And he obviously brutally knocked out Joey Gamache. That ended his career. Really did, absolutely brutal knockout. And kind of since then, you've kind of raised a lot more eyebrows when you see massive discrepancies in weight. And you do think, would a commission step in if there was a really, really big discrepancy in weight? Because I'd love to know, because this looked massive. Honestly, it looked like a heavyweight versus a not particularly big light heavyweight in there. That's what it looked like. It looked major, the weight difference in there. Massive. And Jake Paul, to his credit, right? And I've said this about Jake Paul for the longest. He's not going to do anything in boxing. And I think he knows that himself. And with the way he's been talking, he's talking about fighting Mike Tyson, or he will be. He's mentioned the UFC, light heavyweight champion, as his next opponent in obviously a boxing ring. He's going down the gimmick fight road. And that's fine, right? But when you look at Jake Paul, he's not going to do anything in terms of the main kind of, going down the contender road, looking to fight for titles or anything. He's not going to do anything. But there is a little bit of talent there. There is a little bit of athleticism. There is a little bit of something. He has picked up boxing, to his credit. And at the end of the day, you look at his brother Logan Paul. He's in the WWE. And I know in the WWE, if something goes wrong, you can get badly hurt. I think he was even injured, Logan Paul. I think he injured his leg or something in a match. But if it goes well, you're not going to get hurt. In boxing, it's boxing. You can't swim without getting wet. There you go. So credit to him, he is in a sport that is dangerous. We know boxing's dangerous, anything can happen. So credit to him for that. It does take some cojones to get in a boxing ring. It does, genuinely does. And he has a little bit of talent there. Like, his hand speed is pretty good. His combination punching isn't bad. Like, when you see him let the combinations go, you kind of look and you're like, okay. And to be fair, in this fight, the combinations weren't bad. They really weren't. And you look and you're thinking, okay, that's actually, it's not too bad. It's not going to win you world titles or anything like that. But you look and you're like, all right, it's a little bit of, I've seen worse. I've seen worse from prospects who, are big ticket sellers on the small hall scene. And you're like, okay, they can't do that. Jake Paul is all, it's not bad. He dropped Mike Perry in the first round, big right hand, put him down, and it was within the opening minute. I mean, Mike Perry, he has tremendous heart, I'll give him that. He hung in there for 6 rounds. He was dropped 3 times in this fight. He took a lot of big shots. He didn't quit. He'd no quit in him. And that can be dangerous. The referee, the stoppage in round 6 was perfect. I mean, he really could have stopped the fight. I don't think I would have complained if he'd stopped it in round 4 after the big barrage of punches that Mike Perry took in that round, because he was hurt multiple times in round number 4. I mean, he really did take a beat in that round. He was down in round 1. He was down from another right hand in round number 2. It just seemed like the writing was on the wall for Jake Paul in this fight to have an early night's work. But to Mike Perry's credit, if nothing else, he has heart, because he didn't have defense. Didn't have that at all. He hung in there, took his shots in round number 2. Round number 4, he got hit with a left hook early on. His legs appeared to just go from underneath him, but he stayed on his feet. Jake Paul opened up a combination. He then landed another combination at the back half of the round, or back end of the round, and he really hurt Mike Perry then. And then Mike Perry stood on his feet. The referee was having a very, very close look, and a lot of referees at that point, because they were big flush shots he was taking, would have just waved the fight off. They would have just stepped in, they would have stopped it. The referee didn't. He let the fight carry on, made it into round number 6, at which point Jake Paul put it on Mike Perry again, started landing big shots, started landing combinations, dropped Mike Perry. Mike Perry again, he beat the count, but the legs were gone. And most referees, in fact, I think pretty much every referee will do this, regardless of the situation. If you get knocked down, you get back to your feet, and you basically can't stand. Your legs are still doing the silly dance, and you attempt to move forward, but the legs betray you, they'll wave it off. I mean, if you go back and look at Costa Zoo when he fought Zab Judah, that happened there. You look at Dylan White when he fought Tyson Fury, he got to his feet, the legs betrayed him, the referee, he's no choice, he has to wave it off, because he knows, alright, he can't fight, he can't carry on. So there's no argument, was that the right decision? It definitely was. So that was the fight in a nutshell. A lot of fallout on social media. I'll just have a quick read through some of the comments. Mike Tyson's countdown begins. 118 days, 16 weeks, 6 days, 17 weekends, a fair few hours and a fair few minutes. Conor McGregor is, going in non-stop on these guys. Jake Paul is the biggest something I have ever seen in my life. 40-pound weight difference, juiced out of his head. That's rich coming from him. I mean, this is the guy who was meant to fight a couple of weeks ago, but he pulled out for unknown reasons. And you only have to take one look at Conor McGregor and I mean, it's rich for someone like McGregor to say that guy's juiced out of his head. I mean, God only knows what's going on in him. Jesus Christ. What else does he say? The Athletic Commission, real testing. Yeah. How much testing are you getting, McGregor? How much testing are you getting? So yeah, a lot of fallout with that one. Yeah. I've given my thoughts on the Mike Tyson fight. I think it's a silly fight. I think it's a gimmick fight. I think it's just completely I don't understand it. I can kind of get what Jake Paul is doing, fighting guys who are, in around his age bracket, who maybe come from different sports. I get that, but Mike Tyson is 60 years old. That's just going overboard with that one. But that was the fight in of itself. Yeah, Jake Paul doing what he has to do, doing what he did, and credit to Mike Perry, he's tough if nothing else. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below on this fight. Leave it in the comments, hope you enjoyed it.